Hey everyone, Meteorologist here in Tuttle with you. It is time to talk about your forecast for tomorrow. Got some severe weather returning to Oklahoma, and of course, we're going to have to talk about that. Yeah, you can only go for so long. It is the season, so I know you guys are ready for us. We're going to tell you about where, when, how, all that stuff. So thanks for joining me. You come to the right place. We're going to give you all the scientific reasoning behind what you're going to see. We'll look at some of the model data and tell you what you can expect and how that'll impact your Tuesday. So again, thanks for joining me. All right, so let's tell you what. Let's get on with it, shall we? First thing, by the way, thanks for watching on YouTube, on Twitter, Periscope, and Facebook Live. Either on my closed group Facebook page, a little private group page we have going, if you're a Facebook fan, subscriber, or a Patreon, or also on the main Facebook page as well. So I appreciate all of you guys out there. All right, let's get on with the details, shall we? Let's talk about some maps. Let's get on with what's really shaking and baking. So this is from the Storm Prediction Center, and it's got a fairly large area here over central Oklahoma, also up into parts of Texas and Arkansas, southeastern Kansas, southwestern Missouri. So bottom line is we've got some severe weather across a very large territory, and it's going to be a mixture of all three. So tornado is highlighted here in brown. That's the most likely area. That's forecasted up here in this section. Green elsewhere, which means lower probabilities of seeing a tornado. By the way, neither one of these are very high probabilities. They're very low in the broad scheme of things, but if you have to paint a probability on there, looking for a tornado, in other words, it's a needle in a haystack, let's go snip it out, that's where you're going to do it, all right? That kind of hopefully puts a little bit more perspective to it. Now the wind is the bigger threat with this. There's a large area where they're thinking a lot of wind potential, a lot of wind damage, and that covers a good chunk of Oklahoma, pretty much right on the I-44 corridor that stretches from Tulsa to Lawton and then points down south and east on into southeastern Oklahoma. All right. Then we have a little bit of hail to deal with. Now they've got the hail marker here in the red pinged out across Tulsa and Oklahoma City and points down southwest a bit. Not so much down here in southeastern Oklahoma, probably because by the time the storms get down there, it'll be later at night. We're talking after probably 9 o'clock, so therefore the hail won't be as large. The storms will be quite a bit weaker in general terms as far as that goes, but still strong enough for the damaging wind. A lot of collapsing updraft cells. That'll be a nasty squall line is what that looks like. We'll show you what a squall line looks like as well. Now the Weather Service has it kind of outlines like so. Low threat of a tornado risk in this area here. Now I'm thinking currently, looking at the latest data, the best chance of seeing a tornado is about in this area here. And that's it. So this spot here. Outside of that, I see very, very low probability. Not saying it's zero, but it's about close to zero as you can get. As there has to be something sweet happening up here, and I'll show you what that is here in a minute. Meanwhile, when you look at the overall severe weather risk, you can see how it's a moderate here, or excuse me, I should say enhanced, not quite moderate. Enhanced here over central, southern, eastern Oklahoma, and then just back out to the west. By the time you get to Woodward, you guys are out of it. So don't worry, if you live in Woodward, you're going to get your fair share of severe storms. It happens in May. Still a little early for you. So you can ride this one out in peace, whereas the rest of us have to keep an eye on the sky. Now, if you look at timing, Weather Service broke it down as follows. Not bad. I like it. 2 to 5 here in the lighter blue shading. We're looking at 4 to 8 p.m. from across central Oklahoma, and then down to southern Oklahoma, about 6 to 11. So they were pretty late at night by the time it heads to the Red River Valley. Now that storm system will keep on trucking on, by the way, into Texas. Now here's a look when we take a look at the analog guidance. In other words, we take a look at a lot of past events, put them in a magic bowl of all the indices that we look at, and compare them to history, and we try to then foresee what tomorrow looks like. Well, it likes a big, large area of severe weather, hence what you've seen, which is a large risk from the Storm Prediction Center. When you break it down, though, into wind, you can see the biggest chunk here is across, again, eastern Oklahoma. This, of course, includes you guys in southwest Missouri and western Arkansas and northeastern Texas. When we break it down into hail, this particular system favors more centered into southern and northwestern parts of Texas. That's because there'll be some bigger thunderstorms at that point in time. Now, when you look at the tornado aspect, it's very, very low. It's almost inconsequential, but it's got a little weak 2%, which is the lowest it can go here across this region of the state. Now, it's not going to pick up on the little details I'm going to show you here on the next map. All right, not this. Well, coming up here in another map, not this one. However, when we do look at that, and you put in how many severe weather reports we see, whether it be hail, wind, or tornadoes, it's got most of these severe weather reports anchored over southeastern Oklahoma and eastern Oklahoma, western Arkansas, and northeastern Texas, all the way down to Dallas-Fort Worth, to Tyler, and then points north and east from there. So it is expecting several severe weather reports to come out of this. All right, that's your take home from that. In other words, it's just a severe weather event. Now, here's what I'm talking about. All right, here's a sweet spot. So, high resolution NAM has come out. What it is trying to do is form a surface low, a little meso low, out here to northwestern. I'd say northern Oklahoma, so it doesn't be confused out here in the northwestern, which I usually refer to around the Woodward area. So we're talking about northern Oklahoma, just west of 35. And what happens in a surface low, it tends to back the winds and bring them into more of a southeast and easterly fashion. Plus, of course, you got the winds up to the north that wrap around the backside. So you get an area of low pressure, which makes the wind field flow counterclockwise. Well, that helps to spin the atmosphere for a supercell storm. All right, so that's what you need for this particular case if you want to get, say, a tornado to develop. Now, when we look at the model, it does produce a couple of supercells up here. It's got one in southern Kansas along the border. It's got another one here, probably just let's say north of Enid, again west of 35. So it's got a couple of supercells at the early stages. This around 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So the best shot of seeing a tornado is going to be either with this cell or this cell in those areas, because that is where the surface winds are more ideal. It doesn't last long. We're only talking about a couple of hours for the favorable conditions, and that's it. Now, if I were to look at a sweet spot sounding, in other words, we look at, we pick a point on the map where the most favorable conditions are. The sounding does forecast a tornado event, which is right here behind my head. This word right here, tornado. All right, so the shear versus the height is looking good. It's classic supercell. It's got some pretty decent analog comparisons with it for supercells, some significant ones. It's got some good moisture with it, decent wind field, a lot of cape, 5,000 joules, no cap. So a lot of these indices say, yep, we'll likely see a tornado with one or two of those cells. All right, so that's where I think the most favorable area for a tornado in the state is. Outside of that, the conditions are not nearly as favorable. All right, doesn't mean they can't happen, but they're very slim. So here's a look at how the high resolution model will play out. This is our new short-term model that they're tinkering with. So it's got those two cells first off initially, again in northern Oklahoma and southern Kansas around 4 o'clock. Now, as the line develops, we're looking at a squall line to happen here along the I-44 corridor, back down here in Oklahoma, then toward Lawton. You can see it's a little weak down here. There's some missing gaps. In other words, the models aren't so certain. You know, things get bubbling up down here, but otherwise they're pretty doggone certain, you know, across Tulsa and Bartlesville and Miami, back down to Stillwater, and even here in Oklahoma City and Edmond. All right. Now, as we head into the next couple hours after that, you can see how this line of storms continues to move south and east. Here's 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, just going gangbusters, 11 o'clock. So 12 o'clock, so we get to midnight hour, and we are looking at one long line of storms. So what does we call this? We call this a squall line. Squall lines are known for, main thing is a line of damaging wind in many of these cells. The secondary thing is usually pockets of hail within that. So it's a hail and wind producer, not a tornado producer. Now, along the squall lines, if things are just right, you can get what we call QLCS tornadoes, or little bitty baby. I call them baby tornadoes because the majority of them are. Not all, but most of them are. They're not formed by the classic supercell, which is what I was talking about in northern Oklahoma. These are the ones that are along the leading edge. Any little eddy is just an area of spin in the atmosphere at the lower levels. Any little spin can get picked up in an updraft and create what we call a pseudo tornado. All right. A tornado, by definition, is a violently rotating column of air. That's it. So it's so violent that it will cause some damage, either very minor damage or sometimes major damage. But that is what a tornado is called. So anytime you hear a storm chaser or a meteorologist or a weather guy say, there's a violent tornado, well, they're all violent by definition. That always irks me. When they say large, well, large is in the eye of the beholder. Are you 5 feet from it? Or are you 5 miles from it? Because that's going to affect your view of how large this thing is. So bottom line is, don't get lost when you hear those kind of things. Just know a tornado is a tornado. All right, and then you take shelter from it, and you know that majority of them are weak. That's what you need to know. All right, now let's go on to the other thing here. So that newer model I had for you really likes to back build these storms. This is the ensemble. In other words, you push the model in several directions. You get a lot of development back out here west of 44. In other words, plenty of time for these storms to mature and get going. I can tell you this is a brand new trend. Most of the models didn't have the storms going until they hit the I-44 corridor. That would limit the amount of severe weather damage here in the greater Oklahoma City metro area. If they start out west of town, you get stronger storms move in. If they start out right on top of us, only the east side, south side gets the strong stuff. And this is one of the models I love to use during severe weather season is the Tech model. It's got a lot of strong storms in northeast Oklahoma, but some weak stuff here in Oklahoma City around the 5 and 6 o'clock hours. They start to bubble up. So they really don't get going until they move south and east. So this is OKC right here. So they really don't get going until they're moving south and east of us. Even Tulsa's getting slammed, all right? So that's the difference in this particular model, and a lot of them like this. Even Dallas gets hammered on later on, by the way, with some heavy thunderstorms. And that's probably by then. It's after midnight or so when that happens. So it's going to be a late night all the way down to southeastern Texas. So this thing's going to go all the way down to the Gulf of Mexico. It's a long way to go. All right, so that is the latest look at how things are progress for tomorrow. I was going to see if this other little deal I have is ready. Let me see if it is. If it is, we shall discuss. Okay, so this is the blend of the significant tornado parameter. It's very low, and it's still anchored over southeastern, well, let's say eastern Oklahoma. All right, so it's got the best indices for a potential tornado. But this looks like, in the late afternoon, 4 o'clock. Well, the problem with that is the storms are still going in this area. So it's not overlaid. In other words, our storms are not in this favorable environment. As we go through time, that environment dissipates as the storms kind of chase it. So in other words, this isn't going to be a very favorable area for tornadic type storms, looking at more wind and hail. Now, if you want something a little bit more stout, we'll look at the long range. And the forecasters, which are trying their skill once again this year, as we forecast the extra period of time. Let's see, forecast 2nd to the 3rd. Let's see. They're from May 3rd to May 9th. They're saying, hey, should be average. That's what this A is right here. And then when they go to the period of May 10th through May 16th, they're saying above average. So for tornadoes. So we shall see. But you know what? Anyone could make that forecast without any skill at all because it's called climatology. And that's the way it turns out every year. It's the same. But we'll see how this goes this year. They're going to get more details on where they think those lines in the sand will be. All right. Let's see. So that was it, my friends. That's what I had for you. Hope that was helpful, educational. Hope you learned a little bit. Let me jump to some of your questions real quick. Wes, I hope that was the words you were looking for. Let's see. Katina on Twitter. Yep, you made it on time. So thanks, by the way, on YouTube and Twitter, you guys leaving your comments and questions. I appreciate that. Just looking at them both here just a second ago, because I can't look at them while I'm doing my maps, so I usually stop right at the end and try to answer a couple of questions with time permitting. So on the closed Facebook group page, let's see, my patrons, checking out real quick. Larry, was that you? Yes, awesome. Doing a little Home Depot today. Big Papa Pump. Try. Oh my goodness. Leslie, I hope that was a legitimate word for you. Hope you guys got what you needed. Berta, the biggest hailstones I saw were probably about 2 inches in diameter, which is pretty large, but those are mostly south and east of Oklahoma City, potentially up around Tulsa area. So there's likely to be some big hail, especially there'll be a sweet spot somewhere, in east central Oklahoma and northeast Oklahoma in the early stages of all this. Then later on, as we go into after 9 p.m., 10 p.m., the hail sizes come down dramatically. So any storm going on that reaches you after that, say you're watching me in southeast Oklahoma, know that wind will be the situation you have to deal with. Let's see. And Neshoba, did you miss the timelines? We talked about at the very beginning. You want to know an EF rating? Oh, that is brave. We will not do that here. But the timeline, though, is going to be for around 4 o'clock up northern Oklahoma, and then closer to 6 o'clock here in Oklahoma City metro area. It's going to take a couple hours for all that stuff to bubble up and move into the area. Let's see, your daughter's driving from Edmond to DFW. As long as she leaves here by 5 o'clock, she should be fine, and she'll be way out ahead of the storms. They'll be chasing her, but they'll be way behind her. All right, on the main Facebook page, I can only go back about the last 50 comments, but I'm going to peruse here real quick. You guys are mentioning a lot of hyping up terminology, so there must be a lot of hype going on. Sorry that you have to deal with that. But let me tell you, the news is hype in general. You guys have learned that by now. How can you guys not have learned that already? No, you're not tripping. My eyes are I probably just have to adjust my Chiron for the chroma key so I can get the white balancing off a little bit better for the eyes if they're looking a little ghosty. That happens sometimes. I get so busy doing everything else, sometimes I forget to do that. And you just have to put up with some fluorescent dancing eyeballs, which might be cool and or creepy, I'm not sure. But yeah, they are blue though. But probably not as blue as that the camera may make them seem. I don't know. Actually, maybe they are. Maybe they're just gorgeous blue. Sea of blue. Just look into them and just go, I could just stare into your eyes all day. Did you say tornado? No problem. All right, anyway, back to the questions. Let's see. Sharon, good. You're welcome. Kim, tennis ball size hail is what I'm hearing. Well, models are saying up to 2 inches. Now remember, it only takes about 1 inch size hail is the official criteria for severe thunderstorm warning. And it's about golf ball size to actually do some damage to cars, some roofs. Once it gets over that size, for sure, you can have roof damage and car damage. But luckily, a lot of the hail, even in the springtime, is just under that criteria, right around it. It's usually we don't usually get the horrific, tennis balls, baseballs, every event. Thank goodness, no one would live here if we did. We get them enough as it is, just in the rarities that they do show up. And a lot of times, I can tell you this, the models have a tendency to overestimate hail size. Keep that in mind. They overestimate it, and it usually ends up being a little smaller than what they say. So when you have forecasts going, hail size, I expect that to be grapefruits tomorrow, that's because what the computer model data does say. But in reality, a lot of times it's less than that. Thank goodness. But if you do hear the forecast of big hail, tennis balls, pay attention. It means if it's not exactly the size of a tennis ball, it's still big enough to do some damage. So how's Perry looking? Ali wants to know. Ooh. That answer your question? Let's see. You're welcome, KT. Glad I could help out. Who asked about Stillwater? Karen? I specifically mentioned Stillwater earlier, didn't I? Ooh, right up there next to Perry. Same kind of answer. Fear. Oh, calming us down. You bet, Deborah. I got to tell you guys something else last time before a bunch of you bail off, because I'm going to be getting bail off out here too. You got to understand something in television for the local TV guys here in Oklahoma City. It's spring severe weather season, all right? They have a lot of money spent in bells and whistles for your behalf, all right? There's a big investment going on, and all that investment is paid for by advertisers and that kind of stuff. And it's usually tied into, Max Doppler 5000 brought to you by whatever, all right? So there's a lot of advertising money in television itself and everything they do and show you, which is got no problem with that. But that's why they have to use it and say it. So they need you to watch as much as possible because, again, that's where they make their bread and butter for the whole year. So that's why you get a lot of that, call it hype, you can call it fear-mongering, you can call it wish casting instead of forecasting. You can get a lot of embellishment when it comes to severe weather events themselves, and making a mountain out of a molehill, and this storm at any moment is going to do this, and look at it. All that kind of crap, it's crap. So the earlier you recognize what that is, you can shut it off, hit the mute button, put me on. I won't jump up and down, screaming like my head's getting cut off or something, like a chicken running around. I'm not going to do it. So, but if you want that, you can pick 3 TV stations and get it. It's all the same. Just pick your version. Anyways, that's a little tidbit in there, which is why every time you guys leave all these comments, so you're all freaking out because apparently, again, I don't know, I don't watch, I don't care. I'm way too busy see what all the other guys will say, but it's usually something all similar. And I've, on some of the live comments, or live, because I get the TV monitors up here when I watch the live stream, so for helicopter shots and stuff, so I can have everything at my disposal. I will see, there's not a single radar meteorologist in this market other than myself. I just need you to know that. So none of these guys took radar meteorology in college, all right? So what they've learned is just on their own, which is fine. I got no problem with that, but it leads to a lot of errors. And I will see them point at stuff, not even have a clue what they're talking about. They'll be pointing the wrong part of the storm. They will say some of the most outlandish things. They won't understand the dual pole variables, and they won't understand some side lobe contamination. There's all kinds of stuff that they'll misidentify and then warn you about it and tell you, watch out. And I'm just going, oh, that's not what that is. But you're never going to know that. Only I'm going to know, which is why I cannot watch them, because it will drive me crazy. That's a whole tangent you got me on, and I don't even know how they even happened. So we're moving back off that tangent. Anyway. Seriously, the first year I left TV retired, I watched the following spring, because I never get a chance to watch because I'm too busy doing it, right? And so I watched the stations flipping back and forth, and I was yelling at the TV going, do this, do that, zoom in, what are you talking about? That's not even the circulation area, that's this part of the storm, that's not going to do this. And I'm just like, I can't watch this anymore. I turned it off, and I never turned it back on since. And that was 2008. Man, that was 12 years ago. Whew. Man. So yeah, the only time I see anything going on is just if it's on the top monitors when I'm in the middle of an event. And I usually don't have time to listen to them because I'm talking to you. Anyway, that's a whole nother insider info of kind of what goes on behind the scenes, in case you're interested. All right, well, that was it. Somebody just got on with no questions for Oklahoma City and all that other stuff. I'm going to end this broadcast. You can watch the whole thing if you'd like to get some educational background on it, but a very short version. Here's your 30-second clip. Showers and storms will be developing tomorrow at 4 o'clock. A couple of supercells look likely across northern Oklahoma and southern Kansas right on the state line. Either side of I-35, literally probably one left and one right of that. Those early on, next from 4 to, let's call it 5 o'clock, 5:30, somewhere in there, for that time window, has the potential for producing a tornado. All right. Then, once they start to line out and become linear and start developing all the way back down into a line of storms that back builds all the way toward, just west of Oklahoma City, then at that point it develops a squall line. So the tornado threat's gone. Now, tornado threat gone for the mesocyclone supercell type. You can still get on a squall line. Those little QLCS tornadoes, those are very hard to detect, very hard to warn for. They're very, very small, typically very weak. You can still have some of those in a squall line, so that likely could happen at any point in time from the time that thing gets going by 6 o'clock all the way as it moves through southern, central, eastern, southeastern Oklahoma. Otherwise, the main threat will be damaging wind. And a lot of times you can't tell the difference in that case between the damaging wind and the QLCS. They kind of get lost because sometimes you get the QLCS right on the leading edge and then a damaging windstorm coming right behind it. So I was like, what was worse, the little baby tornado or the wind damage that came in at 80 miles an hour after it? Then it would blow everything in one direction anyway. So kind of erasing whatever marker would be for the tiny tornado. But anyway, we're getting into semantics. That's all science and blah, blah, blah. You don't care about that. Bottom line is, if you get a warning that goes off on my app, AT's weather to go, seek shelter, whether it be from the proprietary part of it, which indicates twisting storm alert, which is indicating of a tornado, or an actual official tornado warning, which usually comes out about, sometimes it can vary anywhere from about 3 minutes to as much as 10 or 15 minutes after my alert will come out. That's why sometimes you get to about 20 minutes heads up for a tornado producing storm. It's proprietary, it's free, it's algorithms that you can use. Apple, Google Play has it. It's called AT's Weather to Go. You can just search for AT's Weather and it should show up. Let me think. So here in Oklahoma City, this was a long 30-second summary, by the way. So I do that. Oklahoma City. So we're looking at roughly, don't worry about it until about 5 o'clock. You'll see storms building north and west, and then by 6 o'clock and roughly, and then onward is when things start to move in, and then they won't last too long. It'll be if I had to pick a window, I'd say you're about 30 minutes worth of storms and they're gone. So it's a lot of quiet for a 30-minute, Katie bar the doors, and then gone after that. Let's see, and then it'll be tracking south and east all rest of the evening until it exits the state, moving into North Texas around Dallas and Tyler, probably by close to a little after midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, something like that, and then continues all the way down to the Gulf Coast. So a lot of wind damage reports from that I'm expecting. A few hail reports here and there, and yeah, there's going to be probably QLCS type tornadoes somewhere embedded in that squall line. You can't predict where those will be, but the situation, again, more favorable for damaging wind. Okay, that's it, my friends. That's all I got for you. I got to get out of here. I will be doing some live broadcasts tomorrow evening or afternoon, assuming, again, that a tornado threat is likely at some point for those early storms. Otherwise, I may just put up a broadcast to what I call my severe weather studio. Well, I have radar, camera, weather maps that come in from Storm Prediction Center or the National Weather Service. I'll have a NOAA weather radio on there, some other little things. So I kind of built that as a side deal. So I may be live. If I'm live with me, I'll be covering tornadoes live. In those particular cases, I either may be tied up, but it's going to get information that's going to be helpful. So either way, you're going to see something go on from time to time during the rest of our severe weather season. Well, thanks for watching, following, liking, and sharing this. Tell all your friends and family for your support. Appreciate that, whether you want to do it via Patreon or Facebook fan subscriptions. Those are all new. My website, aarontuttle.com, has some other options you can click on, including PayPal, Venmo. What else is there? Cryptocurrency, if you're a crypto fanatic. You name it. I'm trying to cover everybody out there. All right, you guys have a great night's sleep, and we'll talk again tomorrow. I'll try to do a Facebook Live. Lunchtime tomorrow. Go for that. Will that go for you? We guys do that? Can we do that? Facebook Live tomorrow? Roughly 12 o'clock, somewhere right around there? Sound good? Yeah? Okay? All right, we'll do it. All right, you guys have a good night. Bye.